Everyone, we are back. If you are just joining us, we are going to be talking about how you can find jobs on LinkedIn instead of wasting tons and tons of time scouring all these sites like Indeed and LinkedIn Jobs and Glassdoor and everyone else. A lot of you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn Jobs, but there are a lot of other ways on LinkedIn to find out about roles, sometimes maybe even before they hit those other job sites. So stick with me because I have some really, really hands-on examples, and I'm going to give us time to workshop this a little bit. So hopefully by the end of this, you will now have this awesome superpower, and I really mean it when I say superpower, of being to really effectively use LinkedIn search to find roles. So we are going to get started here in just a second. I want to do one really quick tech check to confirm that something is working, and it looks like it is. So let's not waste any time. If you don't know me yet, I am Sarah Doody. I'm a user researcher and experience designer, and I'm the founder and CEO of something called Career Strategy Lab, which is essentially a job search accelerator, kind of like a startup incubator, but for UX people in their job search. And we help you with everything related to your job search, resume, portfolio, LinkedIn, finding jobs, preparing for interviews, etc. I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end because I don't want to waste any time. I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to cross my fingers it works because we restarted Chrome. We are going to hit screen share. We're going to choose the window. We're going to do this. We're going to hit share, and look at that. All right. And how about we move me? Oh, I can't drag my, can I? Yes, I can. Look at that. Oh, look at this user experience. I thought I was dragging myself to the top of the window, but I was actually swapping. All right. Well, looks like Restream has some user experience to work on. Let me move this over to this monitor too, so I can see and you all can see it. So let's see here. That's good for you all, right? I don't think I have any important stuff in the bottom right-hand corner of of this. And if anyone still has the old live stream open in another tab, do me a favor and drop the link to this one over there because we lost a bunch of people when we had the little tech glitch and we had to restart Chrome, which was not ideal. So this will probably go for 30, 40 minutes. So if you have people you want to invite, now would be a great time to invite them. All right, let's get started. So I said we're going to talk about how to find jobs on LinkedIn and not waste time finding jobs elsewhere. So what do I mean exactly? First of all, I want to know how many of you can relate to any of these statements? And maybe it's both. First of all, are you in a situation where you've been searching for jobs, but you can't find ones to apply to? And you're spending hours and hours and hours searching and searching, but you're essentially barely applying to any jobs? Or are you in a situation where maybe you have applied to a ton of jobs, 50, 100, more than 200, and you're not getting any interviews? So I want to check the chat and see where you fall in either of these camps here. So let's check the chat and find out. All right. I'm seeing some of you say you've applied to more than 50 jobs. Okay. And some of you are also saying, yeah, you are spending a lot of time on job sites and you are not finding any to apply to. Okay, Chrissy said you've applied to 200 jobs at least. Some of you said you can relate to both of these things. Josie said applied to more than 50 jobs, applying but not hearing back. That's Karen. All right. So it looks like we're kind of feeling these statements, right? And this is what I want to hopefully prevent for you in the future. Because when people tell me that they have been searching for jobs and you're not applying to any, or you've applied to a lot of jobs and you haven't heard back, you kind of have to put your researcher hat on, right? As with basically any problem I encounter in business and life, I always go back to my research foundation. So in this case, I think to myself, why are people wasting time looking for jobs but not applying to any? And why are people applying to a bunch of jobs and not hearing back? So let's start with the second part. I think if you're applying to a lot of jobs and not hearing back, there's a lot of variables involved there, right? It could be your what I refer to as career materials. It could be something in that resume, portfolio, your LinkedIn profile, etc. Something about those is not helping communicate your skills and experience, thus you're not getting interviews. Number one, though, if you keep searching for jobs and not finding ones to apply to, I have to imagine that either maybe you're being too picky, or maybe you are finding a bunch of jobs, but you have questions about those jobs and you try and get answers to those questions. But guess what? If you find a job on Indeed or Glassdoor or all these other places, is it easy to go ask a question about that role? Let me know in the chat. Or have you ever been in that situation where you think to yourself, this looks interesting, but I have questions before I apply, before I spend time and energy applying, right? So let's see here in the chat. I see some ghost emojis. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'll have to catch up on the chat after. All right. Some of you are saying it is easy to ask questions. That's great. Some of you, I think, are saying, yeah. Some of you are saying, yeah, they never put a contact information. Right. So I want to address some of these problems. So let's move on here. With what I'm going to show you today, you're going to be able to find more of the right jobs for you and hopefully be getting more job interviews. So when it comes to the stage of your career, though, just so I can have this in mind as we're going through the rest of this, what stage do you think that you're at in your career? And I loosely define these as, if you're a career launcher, this means you are just starting out, kind of looking for your first official job. Maybe you just graduated from university or college or something, and you have not previously been working in another industry or role. So that's a launcher. A switcher is exactly what it sounds like. You've previously been a teacher, a nurse, an accountant, or something, and you're switching into user experience. And then the climbers, you've been working in user experience for multiple years, and you're looking to get to that next level. So just let me know really quickly, because I'm curious who's here so I can think about that as we keep going through this. Lots of switchers. All right, not surprised here. A few launchers and a few climbers. All right, so I wanted to ask, like I said, so I can kind of keep this in mind as we're going through, but also what I am going to teach you is relevant no matter what stage you're at, because a lot of people say to me, well, how should I approach the job search if I am a switcher or a launcher or a this or a that? And honestly, after doing a ton of research with people in their job search at all stages of their career over the last about 5 or 6 years, the process to get hired is the same regardless of what you do. The process to make a resume, make a portfolio, prepare for interviews, etc., is the same for all of you. The difference is the content in your resume, your portfolio, what you talk about in interviews, right? So let's keep moving on here now that we know the breakdown of who is here. So I'm really, really curious. Does your job search look like this right now? So you're over here and your dream job is out there somewhere, and you are spending a lot of time finding jobs on what I refer to as like job websites and job platforms. Ones that come to mind for me, Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, etc. Where else are you guys looking for jobs? I'm really curious. And this is also a great chance to just learn about other places to find jobs that maybe you didn't know about. And side note, some of what I'm teaching you today might be useful on some of these other sites as well. So I'm really curious what job sites there might be out there. Slack communities, good idea. And do you guys see this slide where it says your job search probably looks like this, but it's not working? Or is it frozen? All right. Some of you say you're finding jobs on Dice, referrals. All right. LinkedIn. Okay. And just really quick tech check here. Can you see the slides? Because this is not going to be very useful if you can't see the slides. Let's see here. You see the slide and it says your job search probably looks like this. All right, cool. The chart is frozen. All right, we're going to keep going because I think you're seeing the right slide. All right, we're going to keep moving in the spirit of time. So here's a big takeaway I want you to keep in mind here. In your job search, it sounds like a lot of you are spending time on what I referred to as platforms, right? Some of you are focusing on people. More of you need to focus on people. So you want to spend more time trying to find jobs through people, and I would argue less time finding jobs on platforms. So I'm going to show you how to do that. But first of all, here is kind of the magic that happens when you prioritize people over platforms in your job search. So first of all, if you spend more time on LinkedIn very strategically, you won't have to spend as much time going to search for jobs and seek them out because they will come to your LinkedIn feed, right? I see jobs, multiple jobs every single day because I have followed and connected with very strategic people on LinkedIn. So this is going to save you time because rather than you going out and searching, you'll just come into LinkedIn and you will see posts about people who are hiring. The other beautiful thing that happens when you prioritize people over platforms is that you are going to more easily be able to contact someone at that company about that role. So this starts to help to solve that problem of you don't want to waste your time applying to jobs if it does not align with what you're looking for. So let's say you must work in a remote job and the job description doesn't really say one way or the other. You don't want to waste your time applying for that job, but if you can have a person attached to that role, you could ask them, and no promises, but hopefully they answer that really simple question of, is this a remote job? So you can decide if you want to even invest any time applying for that to begin with. The other cool thing when you prioritize people over platforms, especially this idea of really strategically following and or connecting with people on LinkedIn, is that through reading their posts, you are going to potentially get a glimpse of what it's like to work there. Because sometimes these posts might be about things they're working on or something cool their like design team published on their Medium or YouTube channel or whatever it is. So there's really a ton of value in prioritizing people over platforms here. So I want to get into the actual tips, okay? So we're going to do this together in a little bit, but I want to do some examples for you. And then I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to go practice doing some of this. So when you're on LinkedIn, I think the search box is one of the most underused, underleveraged features on there because it's a really great way to find people. Now, I know you're probably wondering, like, okay, but what do I put literally in that search box? So, good question. And the answer is let's reverse engineer this a bit, okay? So, let's go look at posts that people who are hiring have made on LinkedIn. And after we look at a few of these, we can get a sense of words and phrases that might make sense to put in that search box. Does this make sense so far? Let me know. So, for example, this person who works at Smartsheet posted, I'm hiring a product designer. We don't have to read all of this. We're just doing some initial research right now. So I'm hiring a product designer. Okay. Next person. Tom said, we're hiring a senior design researcher. Okay. Next one is Andy, who works at Rocket, which is like mortgage stuff. He said, we're hiring designers, researchers, UX engineers, UX writers, and content strategists. Okay, in case it isn't obvious, the keywords of I am hiring, we are hiring, my team is hiring, that is what you should be searching for. And then, depending on what you do, you can add more after that. So you could search for, I'm hiring a UX and leave it at that. If you're a researcher, you could put hiring a UX researcher, hiring a user researcher. So hopefully that answers your question of what should I search for? And we're going to get into some more examples in a little bit, but this also requires you to be a little bit more mindful about paying attention to what people are posting, like the actual words and phrases. It's kind of like keyword research. That's what we're doing. So that's kind of tip number one, strategically using that like LinkedIn search at the top. The second thing is going back to what I said earlier, being very mindful about who you connect and or follow, because when you do this, you are going to start to see their posts that they are hiring. So if, for example, you really want to work at Shopify or Airtable or Delta Airlines or the Mayo Clinic, wherever you want to work, I would think to yourself, can I go find people who work in user experience at those companies and at minimum follow them? Because if you follow them, you will start to receive their posts in your feed. Whereas if you send a connection request and they don't accept it for a couple of days or weeks or months or years, you won't receive their posts in your feed. So follow is a really, really useful tool on LinkedIn. So when you start to follow people, you're going to start seeing posts like I see every day of people who are hiring, like the UX director at Indeed, who for sure has posted multiple times in the past couple of weeks that they are hiring. So that's another thing you can do to have posts come to you to save you time from going and doing your, like, I'm going to go to Indeed and do some searches there. Then I'm going to go to Dice and I'm going to go to LinkedIn Jobs and I'm going to go here, there, and everywhere, because that's not a great use of your time. And like I said, be very strategic about who you follow or connect with, because then you will get more of the right roles, hopefully, coming up in your feed. Another example of posts that were in my feed over the last couple of days, all because I follow and or am connected to these people. So this one was from Mayo Clinic. This one was from, I believe, Instacart, but don't quote me. All right. The third tip here is the search filters on LinkedIn. Okay. So This is a really, really powerful thing you can do to find people who have specifically put in their LinkedIn headline that they are hiring. So oftentimes, if people are hiring, they can turn on that hiring toggle, which puts kind of a purple bar around their LinkedIn photo, similar to when you're looking for a job, you can say open to work and it puts the green bar. The purple bar means they're hiring. But an even more strategic thing you can do is use the search filters to find people who've mentioned their hiring in their headline. What does that look like? So I typed in hiring a UX into the LinkedIn search bar. And then at the very left, there is a drop down, which you can filter to things like posts, jobs, companies, and people. Now, look at what's happening. Hopefully, you can see this, but I'll read it too. The first person, they are the UX director at Indeed.com, and Chad's LinkedIn headline says UX director dash currently hiring a UX design team lead. Next person, Bernard. Bernard's headline says hiring multiple UX roles, contact me. Next one, Noel, director of UX at SEP, currently hiring for UX and IXD roles. Next one, Alexandra, we're hiring a senior UX researcher B2B. Can you see the power of searching and then filtering to people and playing around with the keywords you put in there? If you're a researcher, put hiring a user researcher or UX researcher. If you're a UX writer, follow that pattern, right? This is so, so powerful. And a lot of people don't realize that. Okay. So now we're going to do the activity. I was going to share my screen and do some live searches on LinkedIn, but I don't think we need to do this. This is pretty simple, but in the chat, I saw a few of you say this is mind blowing. So it looks like my examples did the job of doing a live demo. So why don't we do this? I am going to set a timer for 5 minutes and I want you to do everything in these bullet points. So first, go to LinkedIn and do a search for terms that relate to what you do. Hiring user researchers, hiring UX researchers. You got to play around with these terms. And then what you can do is in that little toggle at the left, you can filter to posts, you can filter to people, and there is a little toggle you also want to turn on, which let me see if I put it in the screenshot. Hold on. Was it back here? No. Okay. Let me look really quick so no one wonders. There is a toggle called latest. And so you can do latest or top match. I would recommend latest. And you can even do date posted, within the 24 hours, past week, past month, but play around with those because I think a lot of people don't realize those exist. So do that. And then I want you to follow, keyword is follow, 5 people who work at companies you're interested in, and bonus if they're like the manager or something like that. Is everyone clear on what we're doing? I want to check in the chat because I haven't looked at it in a while. Let's see. All right. Someone asked if you connect with them, you should always add a note. You can only do that on desktop. So I don't ever recommend going on LinkedIn on your mobile device and connecting with people because to my knowledge, it does not let you add a note. You are far more likely to stand out if you include a note. Now, what you put in that note is something that I'm going to cover in another live stream because it's not as simple as we can answer that in a comment in the chat. There is a lot of strategy that should go into what you write there. So Emily, hopefully that answers your question, but let's see here. I want to just make sure we are very clear on what we are doing here. All right. Amber said, I can't find the hiring toggle. What I'm going to do, see, I'm hesitant to share my LinkedIn tab because then you're going to lose the instructions, okay? So I just did a search for hiring a UX designer. And actually, let me just do a screenshot and I will add it to this presentation. How about that for live live designing and solving problems on the fly, which is my middle name this morning. All right. So let me make this smaller so you can see a little more of it. We'll just stop it there and then we'll crop this bottom part. All right. So I forget who asked this, but let me do some arrows here. Let's make them purple, my favorite color. All right. So this dropdown lets you filter to posts or people or companies or jobs or whatever. So you want to filter to posts or people. People is going to allow you to see this view right here, okay? And posts is what we're looking at now. Then this dropdown, which I have selected to latest, if you click that, it's going to say top. Now, this toggle physically may be located over here somewhere because I noticed when I selected it, it rearranged the order of the toggles at the top, which is weird a little bit. This one, date posted, that allows you to say 24 hours, week, month, whatever. If you want to get really granular, posted by allows you to filter down to first degree connections, whatever. And if you wanted to get even more granular, you could go to all filters. And let's say you went to University of California, San Diego, and you want to try and find other people who are hiring UX people who also went to University of California, San Diego, you could add an education filter in there or companies that people previously worked at. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to go back to the instructions because I want to make sure everyone has them. Let's see. Someone says you can add a note on all devices. All right, good to know. It must be hidden, so I'll check that out after here. To follow people, good question. That option is hidden. So when you're on a profile, there is the big giant connect button. But then if you go over to the right, there is a button called more. And that is where follow is located. Let me do a screenshot and add that for you also in the spirit of not losing the instructions, but I'll show you really quickly here. All right, so let's just zoom into like this part of this person's profile. Nuria's profile. Whoops. All right, so we have the connect button. I have a view recruiter button because I got recruiter as like a 30-day trial. But if you click more, you can follow. And to be really clear, when you follow people, it's like following them on Twitter or Instagram. You will be receiving their posts in your feed. It's my understanding that if you connected with them, you would have to wait until they accept your connection request in order for those posts to show up in your feed. Is everyone clear on the difference of those two options, connect and follow, and why follow could be a great option, especially for those people that are working at companies that you're interested in? Jenna said, you don't have all those filters on your menu. I'm using a paid subscription. I am not using a paid subscription. I did mention I have LinkedIn Recruiter, but I 100% know that these filters were there before I ever got the LinkedIn Recruiter thing. So, oh, I see. You found it. Okay, good. Great, great, great. All right. So it's been 5 minutes. Who Give me some feedback. Like, what are we learning? Have you been able to follow some people that might be beneficial to follow given jobs you are interested in? Did you already know all of this? Or did you not think of any of this and you are excited to spend some effective time on LinkedIn, using it really strategically for your job search and setting yourself up so that jobs come to you, which is part of the strategy here. All right. So awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. A bunch of you guys said you followed a bunch of people. Christina said, oh my goodness, I followed a ton of people. So, yes, I would say this is great, great to follow people. Just be careful. It's like if you follow 2,000 people on Instagram, you're going to miss a lot of posts from stuff that you might be really interested in. So be very careful that you don't go on like a following spree. Because to me, this is not a numbers game. This is not a quantity game. It's more about curating the people you follow, and maybe you need to sometimes unfollow, definitely unfollow people if, for example, they're like posting really negative content, or it's always like memes complaining about hiring. And I'm like, this is not serving me, Curate and edit who you follow all the time. I'm ruthless about it. But just use these tips with a little bit of caution, because the goal is that you get more of those posts from people at companies you're interested in coming up in your feed. So let's see here. I'm going to pop back to the chat. Anna said, you knew some of this, you've used search in the past, but these filtering strategies. Okay, awesome. What about, okay, Nicole said, what about someone you follow and they say, I have a great whatever opening, DM me for details, but you can't message them if you're not connected. So yeah, that would be a great example of when you would want to connect to them. And I would, if they provided no other details, then I would, in that message, say, like, I saw your post on Tuesday about the role you're hiring for. Can you send me the job description? Make your message to them. Ideally, include a question that they can answer very quickly. Nicole, what I would not say is, hey, I saw that job you posted about. I'd really love to pick your brain. Can we have a phone call about it? Because no, why do you need to have a phone call? The first thing you need to do is read the job description. So that's kind of first thing I would do. If they did post anything about the role, it's a great little tip to ask them a question about the role. And like I said, we will do another live stream another day to go into the details of this, but there is an art to writing a little message that will get noticed. And I can confidently say this as someone who receives a lot of messages that are not very good. And every now and then there's a few that I think, wow, that person was really thoughtful and wrote a really good message. All right. Lizette did like the mind blown emoji. Can you elaborate? Say more. What is the interpretation of this emoji? I love emojis though. Christine said, can you follow all people? You don't see that option for everyone? I don't know the answer to that. It's possible that you can indicate you do not want people to follow you, but I honestly have no idea. Oh, Christine has a good tip. If you're in a similar group, you can message them even if you're not connected. I can't confirm that, but I'm going to believe Christine. All right. Anna said, can you comment? You could definitely drop a comment on the post if they said, I'm hiring for a user researcher role, you could leave a comment and just say, hey, great, do you have a link to the job description? Or should I DM you and you could send me the job description? Yeah. All right. Anonymous LinkedIn user said, this is super helpful. I've been doing my job search all wrong. Okay, you're welcome. That's exactly why I do this stuff, because these little like micro changes in your approach are going to be so valuable. Probably on Monday morning when you open LinkedIn, if you followed some people today, you will start to see a noticeable difference in the posts that are showing up in your feed. And hopefully some of them are talking about people and companies that are hiring. All right, let's see here. Another person said, should you look for people in your area or state or expand? I mean, that's up to you. Like, if you're open to working in other states, locations, whatever, expand the search. Yeah. But I would also maybe not limit yourself, because, you might live in Seattle and you want to work for IBM. And maybe someone also works at IBM and they live in Miami. If the Miami IBM person posts about a job, you wouldn't see it, And with companies being so remote these days, my hunch in like this moment of when you just asked me the question, my hunch is that using that location filter could limit your options. But if location is a major deal breaker for you, then use the location filter. Okay. A lot of you have questions about building relationships and sending messages to people. We cannot cover that today. Follow my channel or follow me on LinkedIn and you will be notified when we do this. I don't have a date for it yet, but I knew this would come up. I almost combined them into one live stream, but I realized, no, it's too much. All right. So let's see here. Nikita said, so basically, is the job tab on LinkedIn not that useful? Well, it can be useful, but it's like you are needing to seek out the jobs and put the effort into finding them. Whereas if you know that you have a short list of companies you're interested in, this is an opportunity to have jobs come to you rather than you have to go do those searches or set up those searches so that you get the right emails from LinkedIn Jobs, Indeed, etc. Emily said, should you apply to jobs with 200 to 800 applications? Yeah, that's the interesting thing about these platforms, is that some of them show you the amount of jobs. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that. I think the way to decide that is, how interested are you in that role? How long will it take you to apply for that role? And do you want to invest that time? It's like you have to kind of put on a product manager, project manager hat, even if you have no experience in that, and think about basic things like return on investment of your time. And that would be one of those times to think about that. Okay, Lizette, who did the mind blown emoji, said, it's mind blowing for me, the idea of curated the following list. Thanks for that. Okay. And also, even this whole little workshop today was all about LinkedIn. Guess what? If you're on Twitter, you could do the exact same thing. The very cool thing about Twitter is Twitter has a much more robust search than LinkedIn. And I'm going to send you in the chat the help article on Twitter so you can see all of the options, because you can get very granular. Like you can use quotation marks to say the phrase, I'm hiring A, must be in this tweet, and it must also contain the phrase user researcher. So I don't have time to teach you how to do advanced searches today, but be proactive and go read this Twitter article I put in the chat. But the other cool thing on Twitter, and then I got to go, is on Twitter, you could be following people and you could be adding them to lists. So you can make your own lists, public or private, on Twitter. I will find the help article for you as well. And then instead of going to Twitter and having to kind of look at your whole entire feed and see if there's any posts about people to hiring, if you had one list and people on that list are people who maybe work at companies you're interested in or have like the word hiring manager in their job description or LinkedIn or Twitter headline, then you can come to the list and only see posts from that people. So as an example, I have a list on Twitter of journalists and people who work in PR. And every couple of weeks, I open up that list, that Twitter list, to see what they're writing about. Because it's a very strategic way for me to get a sense of, oh, are these people writing about technology or education or careers? And that makes it very easy for me to identify the right journalists that I might want to talk to try and get press for Career Strategy Lab. All right. We have to move on because I said I was going to tell you about Career Strategy Lab, which is a great segue. But in the chat, put your number one takeaway, Let me know. I'm doing some research. I'm very curious. Like, what is the Post-it note you would put on your laptop or computer if you could only write one thing to not forget from today? All right. I'm going to read those. But while you're typing that in the chat, I said I would tell you about Career Strategy Lab, which is the UX job search accelerator that I run. Basically, like I said, it's kind of like a startup incubator for your UX job search. There is no other program out there designed to give you the level of feedback and support and personalized strategy that we deliver in there that helps you navigate the entire job search. And I'm a big proponent of like, let our customers speak for themselves. So a couple of super quick little stories here. Laura was working in research and went on to be hired as a research manager. And she ended up getting hired before she ever, finished her time in Career Strategy Lab. She ended up with a pretty decent salary increase as well. Another person, Marco, ended up getting a promotion before he was ever finished with everything inside Career Strategy Lab. Marco was able to increase his salary by 37% because he had a review coming up, like an annual review. And he quickly made some changes to a little presentation he was going to give. And he was able to show his manager, like, hey, I'm really valuable. And this is all the awesome stuff I did. And he got a 37% increase in total compensation. So Career Strategy Lab is a combination of on-demand, meaning pre-recorded lessons, tutorials, etc., very granular tutorials, just like we did today, for everything going from first creating a roadmap for your career, which is kind of like a product roadmap, but for your career, and writing your case studies, designing your portfolio, writing and designing your resume, optimizing your LinkedIn profile because people need to optimize their LinkedIn profiles. There's so many bad ones out there. Conducting a really strategic job search, how to cold email people, etc., preparing for interviews, and a ton more. And then along with all these pre-recorded lessons, tutorials, etc., we have a ton of templates and examples, and I'll show you a few of those in a bit. But this other person, just in terms of the scale of the materials, they said, the scale of the materials blew my mind. If I'd realized how broken down the steps were, I don't think I would have waited as long to join Career Strategy Lab. So like I said, for every step of the process, there are kind of lessons here. Some of them are videos, some of them are templates, but there's kind of very detailed lessons here for every step: LinkedIn, portfolio, resume, etc. Templates. We love templates. We love worksheets. So we do a lot of our templates in Google Docs. It's just the easiest way for us to create these for you. And then you can do your work right there. And each template and worksheet is very example driven. So it's like, here's how to do this. Here's an example. Here's an example of a not good resume bullet point. Here's an example of an amazing bullet point. Write your own bullet points. It's very, very broken down like that. We have an incredible portfolio template that will save you a ton of time. It's basically a giant deck of wireframes for your portfolio presentation. Like I said, super detailed tutorials. So there's videos of me literally laying out a resume, and you can hear me talk about why I do this, why I do that. This is here for this reason, so that everything is meeting the needs of your users / customers in the job search. The amazing thing is that people are able to break this habit of applying to hundreds of jobs, and get hired through applying to less jobs. So they're saving a ton of time and increasing their salary. We're seeing average salary increases of 35 to 40%. But this person previously applied to 400 jobs and then came into Career Strategy Lab, and I believe they applied to less than 30 jobs and were hired and tripled their salary. This person ended up doubling their salary. This person previously, actually, I think they still are doing a UX boot camp. So they're doing a boot camp and Career Strategy Lab at the same time. And their feedback was really interesting because they said, Career Strategy Lab is better than the boot camp I'm in. It's filling all the gaps and holes that many UX boot camps have, especially when it comes to finding a job, etc. So that's the super high level overview of Career Strategy Lab. I wanted to put that together because I'm super visual and I think it helps communicate what we do over there. But we do this application process to make sure that you are at the right stage to help us, or for us to help you. But I want to clarify, we're not a UX boot camp. Someone was arguing me on LinkedIn that I'm running a boot camp. I'm not running a boot camp. We don't teach you how to do user experience. If you heard about UX a month ago and you're looking to learn UX, that is not what we do. We specifically focus on the part where you are ready to, or maybe you're not ready, but you're looking to get hired as soon as possible and you're a little lost. Maybe you've been applying to 400 jobs. Maybe you realize your boot camp kind of scratched the surface of all this. Maybe you've been working in UX for like 10, 12 years and you're in that kind of nice place of having so much experience, you don't know how to position it all. So fill out the application if you're interested, and then I and my team will follow up with email about that. We're going to do more of these. So follow me on LinkedIn and YouTube so you can get notified of when we do more of these lives. I want to go back and read some of your messages about what's on your virtual Post-it note. I can't wait to read all of them. Caroline said, prioritize people over platforms when looking for a job. Awesome. Secretly, that's what I hoped you all put on your Post-it note. Millennials in Space said, search for people that are hiring, not just companies. Yep. All right. I feel like mission accomplished because many of you are saying variations of that idea of people over platforms. But I really, really hope this was helpful. Feel free to share this with other people because it will be available like instantly. It's on YouTube and LinkedIn. And that's all for now. Thank you guys so much for coming and dealing with the tech issues. I will be personally reaching out to Restream to figure out what the heck happened. Thank you so much, though, and you know where to find me. See you later, everyone. Have a great day.